Alright, let's jump into the intriguing world of secretary, where unconventional office dynamics unfold. We're introduced to Lee Holloway, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, a young woman grappling with her recent release from a mental institution. She's trying to navigate her way back into society and find some semblance of normalcy, but her internal struggles linger. 6 months earlier, we see a scene of release. And then Lee arrives, suitcase in hand, with uncertainty etched across her face. It's her sister's wedding day, a detail that underscores the expectations and pressures she faces from her family. In an unusual moment, her therapist, Dr. Twarden, played by Patrick Bauschow, meets her at the gate. He releases the shackles and gives her a stern warning that he needs to believe in himself. Lee sets out to her sister's wedding determined. We are introduced to the family and the awkwardness and now out from the other people. She tries to make her way. A montage of her previous behavior, a struggle with self-harm, reveals itself. But with that, Lee resolves to seek employment, and we enter a typing class where she encounters the instructor and his less-than-motivating methods. All this, she just wants the validation and the stability a job would bring, but she struggles to maintain focus. The scene is quiet and she seems almost manic in needing the structure and discipline, but she persists with her efforts. Through a newspaper ad, Lee finds the office of Mr. Edward Gray, portrayed by James Spader, a lawyer in need of a secretary. What follows is not your typical employer-employee dynamic, but something far more complex and unconventional. From the get-go, the relationship is strained and strange, as you will see. His office is a wreck. This is just a little bit odd, you will come to find. Now then, we return to the scene where Lee has arrived after the wedding in her sister's clothing. The first order of business is for the wedding dress to be dry cleaned. It seems a bit out of place, really. They launch into this strange interview. After a brief exchange, he says that in the past, people working for him had trouble dealing with his style. Lee assures him that there will be no problems because she is submissive. This interests him. She then gets a trial and is asked to transcribe what he dictates. While trying to type, she stabs herself with a stray pen. Surprised and with his odd curiosity piqued, Gray simply asks if she requires band-aids. After taking care of herself, Lee seems pleased by what happened, typing more diligently because of it. This scene shows how off-kilter their relationship will become very quickly. Upon finding 3 separate typing errors on the dictated paper, the two engage in a conversation. This leads to Mr. Gray scolding Lee about her physical appearance. Lee is hired and the two embark on a very, very peculiar relationship. I hope you enjoyed this review. Tune in next time for more narrative explorations. Lee is settling into her role at Mr. Gray's office, except her typing mistakes are still very real, earning criticism. But also, the recognition that Mr. Gray pays close attention to her later on back home. After her therapist asked her if she spoke about Joe often, Peter drops a casual reference to the fact that he has called Sylvia his soulmate. This seems to leave Lee unsettled. The domestic scene includes her parents, an old photo, and wine, while her brother casually mentions her boss as his soulmate. Back at the office, Lee continues with a task. Suddenly, the speaker system crackles. "Miss Holloway, come into the library immediately." The tone is flat and directive. Lee sprinkles something in her nose before rising to head to the office. When she arrives at Mr. Gray's chambers, they are plunged into near darkness as his power games continue as he questions her social life. He then demands that she take his dictation, but the situation grows more intense when, a few moments later, the phone rings and Gray insists she says all of the words with the requisite volume. Gray, Gray, Gred, 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 Value, Gred, Verthu, Gred, Red, Gred. With her new assertiveness, Lee comes home and she throws all the old instruments into the river, and this signals her total departure from the things that led to the troubles that landed her in therapy in the first place. The next day, dressed for work, she presents herself for her first day, not only without her scissors, but with a whole new attitude. Things may have changed, but there is still much that will come down with the other patients, and there are only so many rooms within the offices to keep up appearances, and the old is replaced with a clear, stated expectation. He tells Lee that she must always tell him everything. After that, the mood shifts again and everything becomes even more different. In this segment, Lee tells Mr. Gray that she won't be able to make it to dinner today, and his nonchalant response is a stark contrast to the increasingly intense dynamic that's been building. He's slowly becoming aware that there's a bond he doesn't fully understand forming between the two of them. It is kind of unnerving, and as Lee starts pushing boundaries, he resists, only to test those limits himself. A game begins where pain and pleasure become intertwined, like when she slides down her skirt to receive Mr. Gray's punishment for her mistakes. There's an odd fascination for both as their boundaries shift further and further. She is willing, and he is exploring his own desires and impulses. The scene takes an interesting turn when Lee decides not to bring Mr. Gray's lunch from the diner. He, being a man of habit, finds this unsettling. The tension is palpable as Mr. Gray hands Lee back her typing scores and he instructs her to fill them out during her lunch break. He also tells her he doesn't want mayonnaise on his sandwich and to take the Walkman home. Lee breaks and takes the scores and leaves Mr. Gray, who then shreds the scores. This scene gives way to another startling act of self-harm when Lee makes a daring choice. She glues the corrected scores to the office glass with her nail marks, and the new and more assertive relationship between herself and Mr. Gray taking a new turn. We are now in the mind of Lee Holloway, and it looks like the worm did something to her. She is no longer that simple, quiet girl. The worm made her realize her potential. A phone call, and Lee is back to the office, where Mr. Gray is waiting for her. Lee, still in her wedding dress, asks him to put his hands on the table, then tells him her new revelation.